9-page inclusive language document in which it urges staff to avoid using the word Christmas because it's seen as too Christian-centric, and instead advises them to call it the winter closure period. The document also advises staff to avoid other supposedly Christian-centric language like, "What is your Christian name?" and, rather ironically, generalizations about people based on their age, such as millennial snowflakes. And to give his thoughts on this story is my brother from another mother, the uncancelable Darren Grimes. Darren, good to see you. How are you?
Good to be with you, Calvin. I'm all the better for seeing you.
What is this woke nonsense all about, honestly? Christian universities trying to cancel the word Christian.
I think upon hearing this, Calvin, it's probably quite easy for some viewers to say, well, this all sounds somewhat inconsequential, right? Who ultimately cares what Brighton University's Marxists and vegans get up to down there in the South Coast? But I think actually in saying that the word Christmas ought to be dismissed as being too Christian-centric, I dare say many agree with me, actually, when I said online that if you don't like the use of the word Christmas, you're welcome, to take your culture war and take it elsewhere, frankly, because I dare say I'm not alone among viewers in actually imagining the howls and the shrieks, Calvin, that would come from the political commentariat here in Britain if someone dared suggest that we ought to ban a word for being too Islam-centric or too Hindu-centric. But you may, as I say, be minded to conclude that, this is an irrelevance ultimately, and poor old Grimesy and collared Calvin maybe need to find another bone of contention. But actually, I think you and I, Calvin, need to be making the case about why this really does matter, why reducing Christmas to a winter closure period ought to actually matter to everybody. Look at it like this. Whether you like it or not in Britain, whether you attend churches like your own, Calvin, or whether or not you only attend church at maybe Christmas or Easter or for a baptism or indeed for a funeral, Christianity actually remains at the bedrock, at the foundation upon which most of our nation is actually built, right? Christianity is our cultural inheritance. It's what that cultural inheritance people fought and died for. And I think it's one absolutely worth protecting. If you consider how many of the laws of our land, how many have not been plucked from the thin air spouted by a politician, Calvin, but have actually stemmed by Judeo-Christian beliefs on what's right, what's wrong, what's good, or what's bad. And the established church, and you and I have got a fair few things to say about the established church in this country, despite all it does to try and tarnish its rich inheritance, everything about it, and our history, our arts, our culture, they're all steeped in Christianity. So, Calvin, I'm afraid I do take this seriously, and I'm afraid I do think it needs to be rejected, because what we're at risk of losing here is way more important than a couple of unruly Marxists in Brighton, I think, should be allowed to get away with.
Absolutely.